Welcome back, everybody. We're in for another half-hour discussion. I told Jason we've got to spend a little more time talking about this more in depth. So I convinced him that we should spend about another half hour talking about this, because how often is it you get to spend this kind of time? This is where we really want to get to know people and have a discussion where you get to sit down and feel about who these people are and why they do what they do, what their passion is. Not somebody who's just going out and solicited a bunch of reviews, for instance. And so Jason has a lot of great reviews, and a lot of people love what he's done. But I said, how often do you see this? We were talking about it because we always try to share some of that. And I'll be honest, there's not too often have I seen here, because we're working with these small business owners most of the time, and they get 27 or 30 reviews or 50 reviews or in that ballpark. But how often do you see somebody with 500 5-star reviews? I mean, you're just like, impossible. Now I don't trust you.
I mean, so...
Is that what goes on in this world? Tell me some of your history there.
You know, I don't want to... I don't bash other companies. I don't do that. That's not how you sell. But, you know, people need to be aware that, first of all, there's artificial intelligence now. AI is taking over the internet. So a lot of... You can put fake reviews on your Google reviews now. I mean, I don't even have Google reviews. I'm word of mouth. And the reason for that is because I worked for a very large company before, and I was, 300 employees were told to contact, call their grandma, their mom, dad, friends, and put 5-star reviews on their website, on Google reviews. I didn't do that because it's not truthful. So, companies are doing that, 100% sure, and I don't play that game.
How often is it that's the case? Like I said, I've only seen a couple of times. I can't name any client I've had guests or anybody that's been on my show where I was like, oh wow, 425, all 5s. Even if they've got 150 and they have multiple locations, but they still like a 4.6 or 4.3. Yeah. But I've seen a couple of businesses out there. I'm like, how did you get a 5? Now again, it goes back to what you were talking about. The name of your company, Trustman. I can't trust you, man. How many of those were people that were upset? I mean, I get it. You got a problem. You fix the problem. Now they can amend the review, but I mean, come on. So it's just. I mean,
you can actually take reviews off of Google reviews. You can call them, hey, take this off, and it's not that hard to do that. So you can have like I said, again, I'm not trying to bash any companies, because I know there's a lot of great companies out there, but people need to be aware that artificial intelligence is it's out there and it's happening right now. So you just don't know. Just when you choose a contractor, meet them in person and get the good vibe. Just know that you can trust them. That's get a good feeling.
And that's where we want to really give people the opportunity, business owners, the opportunity to be on a show where you can have an in-depth analysis. There's other businesses, well known. I won't say who they are, but you got all the other TV stations out there that do a great job, beautiful looking work, but they're doing a lot shorter version. And I'm just like, man, I want to take some time. We're going to air our stuff late at night most often. We can air during the day too, but it just adds to the overall cost and makes it less effective. Most people aren't watching this during the middle of the day anyway, right, or even at night, whenever. But it's good. You need to have this experience so you can put this on your website, so you can share with other people what you've done. As you say, and you wouldn't have gotten this opportunity if somebody didn't think you deserved it. But along those lines, the reviews are just little snippets, and you don't know who's saying that. You don't know what's going on here. That's why we want to give a more in-depth. Because if somebody's about to spend $15,000, $20,000, $50,000, I want to know who this Jason character is before I go spend that kind of money with him. And I can say this Jason character is a great guy. And I know him personally. And like I said, when I saw you starting your company here, after working for somebody else for so long, all the experience that you have that is well beyond what I've heard anyone else have, being an adjuster, licensed to do so, working hurricanes, and now industry. Oh man, you keep on bringing it, brother. That's good stuff.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. I really do.
That's neat. Well, tell me, along those lines, and with all the technology and the AI you're talking about, and you got a great answer here, because we pregame discussed some of these questions a little bit to review, make sure we're all I want to make sure that you're really explaining things as best as you understand them. And that is, how has technology changed the industry? And you had an interesting answer that I wasn't expecting, but tell me a little bit about that.
Honestly, for me, not a whole lot. I mean, the Eagle View, the satellite imaging has been around for quite some time. I mean, drones are here now, and I use the drone 1 out of 10 times. I still get on the roof, look for the damage, and it hasn't changed for me a whole lot. I mean, I'm old school, and I stick to the roots. That's the best way.
He's an old fool from the old school who's so cool. That's all I can say. But I mean, literally, when you said it to me, I was like, oh, technology, and you got to keep up, and you got to do these things and all this stuff. But bottom line is you need to be able to get up there on the roof. You still go up on the roof yourself. You go examine that yourself. Because there's nothing that can substitute for picking up a shingle and looking at it and saying, I bet the drone video didn't catch this little insertion from a small spike that came through. I had somebody show me that. I'm like, you can't see that anywhere. The guy just knows he's got a rain coming in his roof and he can't figure out where it's coming from.
Right, exactly. I mean, even fresh hail, when it hits, sometimes you'll see an impact, but you can't, the granulars aren't falling off yet. So you'd have to have a good eye up there, and a drone a lot of times just doesn't cut it. So I want to make sure.
Absolutely. So back to the technology is key. Make sure you understand the technology, of course, but don't let it take away from the fact that personal touch, and when you got somebody that's actually going to go out there and be on the roof and check these out yourself. I'm with you, man. And there's many times that's where I called you directly myself. I've got an assistant who generally reaches out and talks to people, or people reach out to us, but I called you personally because I saw what you were doing. So tell me about a time you feel like you've really gone out of your way to help somebody that was about to get taken advantage of and didn't realize it.
Okay, well, here's a story, a quick little story. And, I knocked on this guy's door probably 10 times, and literally 10 times. And the last time, he answered this door, he told me to get off his porch. I'm like, look, man, just give me a second here. I'm trying to help you out here. I want to make sure, you're getting everything you're entitled to, because all your neighbors are getting new roofs because there's been hail damage here. It's like, so I explained to him the situation. He said, I give you 30 seconds. So I explained it to him, and he's like, I don't believe in this, but I'll do it. I'll call the claimant, and if I'm wrong, I'll tell you I was wrong, and you were right. And I was like, you don't have to do that, but whatever. So I got the roof done for him. He was a doctor, he knew everything.
Right, yeah.
I sat down on his kitchen table after the roof was on. He's like, Jason, you were right. I was wrong. Thank you.
Wow.
And that was I'll remember that moment forever. That customer, that client, yeah, he was difficult, but at the end of the day, he was a great guy.
Yeah.
He just didn't want to get taken advantage of either way. So
a doctor who admitted he didn't know something. That's first. A good man. He's an all-around good guy. I've got a lot of doctor friends at this point in my life. As you get older, your buddies who stuck it out for that extra 6 or 8 years of education. But yeah, I mean, doctors saved my life. Everybody knows my story about drunk driver hit us, and I was in a coma from a drunk driver hitting us. But literally, you really kind of you stood your ground. You said, I'm a professional. I know what I'm doing. You're good as a doctor for what it is you do, I'm certain, right? But you made him listen, and it paid off for him, because how many people did he blow off? And now he would come back 5-10 years later going, man, I should have listened to those guys when they could have fixed my roof back for me when Jason was trying to help me explain this to me.
Yep.
Very good. All right. Well, tell me then, what's a big challenge you've had to overcome when it came down to it? And I guess I can only imagine starting your own business. You told me a little bit about when the challenge you had to overcome with regard, how do you handle this? They owe you a lot of money, and what do you do with this? Give me an example of something you think that helped you to learn.
Man, I tell you what, all those things that happened in the last couple of years, it's been a lot. I would change one thing, but most of it I wouldn't. Like the money, I don't care about the money. Money can be made, but that needed to happen, because before I was a very impatient person, and I didn't have a lot of discipline. And with that happening to me, it gave me discipline and made me a way more patient person, and it molded me into the person that I needed to become in order to have a business. Otherwise, it wouldn't have worked out. So all these things happen, they're supposed to happen, even the bad stuff.
That's key. I didn't realize that. That's a great point you make there, because how many of these hurdles are things like, if that didn't happen the way it did, things may not have turned out the way they did, and It was difficult while you went through it, but you learned from it. And I know that was a big paycheck. You were wondering if that was going to come through or not, but you learned a lot from being patient and hey, just go do my own thing.
There's a lot of stress, and so you can't hold on to things. You have to let things go, and again, money's one of them. That's everywhere. So you just have to figure out a different way to get it, and don't let that stuff like that bother you, man, because it's not worth it.
True. Yeah. Don't sweat the small stuff, and don't let little issues stop you from the long time.
Make it into positive.
Make it into positive where you're really going to benefit and have if you don't learn, you think about how many lessons we had to learn from. If we hadn't learned those lessons, like you said, you wouldn't be in a position you're probably in right
Exactly,
now. Ready to be a
exactly.
business owner.
Yep.
Very important. Well, you had an interesting quote. I've got a couple great quotes that I enjoy that were given to me by other people, and many people have heard them before. But you gave me one that was just really straight into me. I pointed up. I'm like that went up there on the wall. But give us a favorite quote that you like.
I have the two that I go by, I live by, is believe in yourself and never give up. That's very simple, basic quotes, but they're the most important ones. Yep.
And so, one, I believe if you don't believe in yourself, and people can read that and they can tell that, they're not going to buy from you. They're not going to let you do the work. Doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're just the service guy or if you're the sales guy, you got to believe in yourself. But the one that you and I could probably talk hours about together is never give up. Why do you think that one's so important?
Well, you only fail when you give up. I mean, that's it. I mean, you got to keep going, and it is impossible to fail if you don't give up.
There it is, ladies. I finally got someone to say it. I didn't say it this time. It was Jason said it, and that is, the truth is, I mean, until you've actually given up, every time that you didn't make it, it didn't work out. It was just another learning experience that improved your skills and gave you more capabilities, more tools in your belt. And until you actually gave up, that's when you actually failed.
Yep, 100%.
Everything else that comes.
100%.
There it is. All right, everybody. That's where Jason hit on a great quote, and I looked up. I'm like, I think my sign's up there. Is it? Never give up. Look up and never give up. And that one up there says never give up. We put those up here in the studio. So hopefully you guys will come visit us in the studio sometime, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But awesome quotes there, man. And sometimes we don't even get to that question, but we moved that one up for you because that's a good question that you answered well. What is an objection people have to consider when they're using your service and when they're deciding to get a roof? What's something that they're usually concerned with?
A lot of them are concerned about the cost, and just keep in mind that your deductible, $1,500 or $2,000 is way less expensive than putting on a new roof out of your own pocket. So when a roofing contractor tries to explain it to you, just understand that paying $2,000 now or whatever it is, or paying $15,000, $20,000, or a big roof, $50,000, 5 years, even 5 to 10 years from now is the time. So when the storm comes, don't worry about that little money right there. I would scrounge it up if you can, because it'll work out in the long run. Yeah,
some people that might fall under the category as they think about this. Cheap becomes very expensive. They're trying to save $1,500 because they don't want to pay their deductible, but they end up costing themselves. And now they come back around later and say, no, that storm came through already, and you didn't get a repair from that. This damage you're trying to claim now is actually from a previous storm. So then they don't get their claim.
Yep. There's a lot of different things that go into it, and that is definitely one of them. Yeah.
All right. Very important to understand that one too. All right. Well, then tell me, when it boils down to it, when you have to say, all right, what gives me the most satisfaction about what you get to do? We talked about this in the first show a little bit. Great answer you had there too, everybody. But tell us a little bit. What is it now when you wake up and you go, oh man, that looks great. Tell me.
Yeah, after the roof, after I've done everything for my client, and the look on their face, and just the response when I have the roof put on and I ask them, hey, how's it look? It looks great, fantastic, beautiful. Those are the words I love to hear, and it makes me feel good about myself too. So, I helped somebody out, and they're ecstatic. They love it. It's gratification. That's what it's about.
Yeah, that's key. I mean, you can imagine how stressful it is to have the place that you live, the place where you dwell, where you spend all your time, where your kids are being raised. You and your wife are building a family, and the whole house is a wreck. And they're just thinking, oh my gosh, this is never going to get back to the way it was. But you do the job of making that happen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Very good. All right. Tell me then, how do you feel you and your company contribute most to the community? And tell me, I know you told me a little bit about how you personally contribute in an interesting way. It's something I've seen this opportunity myself, and it's kind of like, did they make a bad decision? But you have a unique way you kind of handle it and what you do to help people.
You mean just like as a hobby kind of thing?
Well, we talked a little bit how you had times when you see somebody who's down and out.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I used to be very materialistic, and but now it's not about that anymore. I like to give my money out. It sounds weird, but the look on someone's face helping them out, it touches me. So, I always carry cash on me, and if I see somebody in the need, or if someone asks for something, I don't think twice. It doesn't matter because it's it'll come right back to you.
Yeah, I mean, somebody like myself, I'll be honest, there's times when you see somebody out there struggling, you're like, well, that's terrible, but I'm not sure what'll happen there, but what are you going to do? Can I really help them? Or are they going to squander this? And then I thought about it from a different perspective as you and I were talking, I hadn't thought about before, and that is, at least now you know that 100% of what you're giving to them is going to them.
Yes.
And I know the charities out there, they've got to take care of business and run the organization, but only a certain percentage of that can go to whoever it is. I mean, there's times when they can do events where it's 100% is donated. There's a whole lot of people there. I mean, people say, well, where'd the sandwiches come? Well, we paid for those. Okay, so then there's a little bit that came out of that. But bottom line is when you're just down on the street helping somebody, and then you get that good feeling of being able to reach out to somebody and help them directly, I just hadn't crossed my mind like that until you brought it up.
Yeah, it's a good feeling. It maybe seems selfish, but it makes me feel good, but I'm also helping somebody at the same time. So, it's a win-win.
Well, again, back to if you're doing things well, doing things right, and you're also out there taking a little bit out of your personal pocket to help people, that's what you're doing. So, Jason, tell me, what is it you do personally for fun in St. Louis? Or what do you enjoy in your off time, your free time? What do you do?
I used to go out a lot. I pretty much don't do that anymore. And only on very, very special occasions. I like to learn. I like to learn a lot. I've been learning quantum physics, researching different things, quantum physics, neuroscience, how the brain works, just things like that. Very, very interesting, fascinating stuff, yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, how often do you guys have a roofing guy, and nothing against the roofing guys, maybe this is what it just didn't come up with the discussions I've had in the past, that is into quantum physics and how the world works. But we talked about that, and there's quantum computing, as you and I were talking about, and how they can multiply multiple calculations at one time versus binary, which is 1 or 0, 1 or 0. It's just kind of where we're stuck. We're moving to quantum. He said, well, that's quantum computing. Quantum physics is kind of how you understand the way the whole world works together. And talk about that a little bit, because that's where you get to like what you believe and how you you function, so that because you can't just be. We talk about it on the show. Now we're getting into it a little bit, but
I don't want to go too deep into it because I don't want people to think I'm crazy. But
I mean, it's a matter of. But if you stand for something, you believe in something, you go out there and you do what's right. That kind of comes back. Life isn't a series of transactions. It's a journey, not a sprint, right?
Exactly.
You've heard people talk about that. But how do you feel that vibe, what's going on? So I got a gut feeling. We call it a gut feeling a lot of times, right? I got a gut feeling that this is a time where I'm going to go a little bit extra. I'm going to do some more for this particular client because they've gotten in a bad situation, and it's just good karma kind of thing comes around.
Yeah. I mean, everything is energy, and you give off your energy, a positive energy vibe, and if you just do the right thing. And you believe in what you're doing, and look at the future and what you want, act as if you already have it, and manifestation, it'll come to you. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, but yeah, I mean, quantum physics, look it up. It's very fascinating stuff.
Well, that's why I say, everybody, when you get into some of this, we get into a lot of interesting discussion, actually, but just the belief and perspective on life with regard to how do you best function. And I wouldn't even say that's a selfish perspective. That's a matter of I'm trying to figure out everything I can do. I was actually talking to my number one counselor today, and she actually went to an event where they're trying to raise some money for the repertory theater. And she said it was just really done well, and she happened to be the teacher of the superstar guest they had there, a guy by the name of John Goodman.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But she taught John Goodman drama, and she said it just went off wonderfully. He called my name out, but I didn't even stand up or anything because it just seemed like this whole thing needed to flow, which is a matter of, hey, yeah, Judy Ruther, she was my teacher at Afton. That was it. But the whole thing just played off so well because that whole kind of a big picture kind of perspective. Tell me about is that a big picture thing? Is that what quantum physics is? It's a matter of understanding this whole thing works together. The belief you have, the perspective you take, your approach towards life, how you decide to help people, that all comes back.
It all comes back, and yeah, it is your perspective, and just the energy and vibrations of everybody, and I mean everything is vibrating at a certain frequency, and the universe is at 432 hertz. I get deep, so I don't want to get too deep into
432 hertz. I've gotten into this. I've understood the frequency. I had not heard the 432 hertz. That's the frequency.
Yeah, that's apparently Nikola Tesla, all these previous very successful, world-known scientists have have talked about this. Yeah, and it got me very interested in it. So I started looking at it, and then how the brain works, like neuroscience. And you combine the neuroscience with the quantum physics, it gets wild, man. It does.
All right, everybody, we're talking roofing with our expert as we get into quantum physics and neuroscience. Now, I as a sufferer, is that the right word? Somebody who suffered from a coma, I had a neuropsychologist. And so I know the word neuro is essentially neurotransmitters. Those are the synapses that fire off between each little synapse in your brain to help you to calculate and how that all works. And then you tie, Jason's taking me real deep here. I got to start thinking about this more. That, in coming into convergence, there we go, with quantum physics, now we're getting deep. This guy can fix your roof and fix your life, apparently, too. So, but it's just you need somebody kind of has more of that depth. I mean, most people do. You just don't have the opportunity to talk to them and say, hey, let's have a discussion. Not so much about business, not so much about finances, not so much about sports, maybe, but about life. And,
yeah, I like to get to know my clients, and I'm a very open person. And yeah, anything that I'm just honest. I'm open and honest. That's all it boils down to.
Well, take a minute, if you would, everybody, and spend a few minutes talking to Jason about whatever it is you need to with regard to your roof. He consulted with doctors who he had to explain, no, Mr. Doctor, I appreciate you are well educated in what you're good at as a doctor, but here's something you need to understand. And all the way up from, and then going over quantum physics and neuropsychology, neuropathy, everything that goes into neural paths that are making the whole world go round. And that's why I say I get a lot of compliments from, I won't say who, but people at the big network that we are on, and they say, hey, we just love the content you guys throw out there. I'm saying, well, this is another one for the record books, everybody, because now we got into some in-depth, but there's more to life than just, not to diminish fixing roofs, not to just put on a TV show, but there's a lot more. And how does this all working together? So you have that positive perspective, and that's what I liked what you were saying, because you're like, there's a frequency, there's energy, right? There's a vibration, and if you're not in tune with that, if you're taking advantage, you're misrepresenting, you're not doing what you should be doing to better improve this, then you're hurting yourself. Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. I mean, it goes to where you attract what you're doing also, like negativity and all these things. If you're thinking negative, you're going to attract a negative too. It'll train your action. But if you're thinking positive, you're going to attract more positive things. So you've got to turn all your negatives into positives. Yeah,
that is very true too, because I'm somebody who's been through a very negative situation. I could have been a victim for the rest of my life. Very easy. I had every excuse that you could imagine. I came out of a coma. I wasn't supposed to be able to take care of myself. Some people still wonder about that part, if I can take care of myself or not.
Look, you're doing pretty well right now, my friend.
Well, thank you. But it's because I get positive reinforcement, encouragement from friends like you. But there's so much. If you're gonna, make this argument. Never had this discussion on the show either, but I think it helps people understand what we're talking about, what we're about, and that is, how is it possible to be focused on anything, but if you're focused on something negative, you can't be focusing on something positive. Human mind, people say, well, people can do two things at once. You can't focus on two things at once. You can only focus on one thing at a time. And if your energy is being spent trying to nail down something that didn't happen the way you wanted to, I don't know how many times, I had one time, a lot of money was taken from me for an agreement that we had, and then I realized what happened. I said, no, we don't. He says, sorry. My parents even went up to meet with him privately. They said, that guy's a crook, stay away from him. And I said, wow. But I could have spent years thinking about that and how bad that was and unfair that was. But when it came down to it, I'm like, lesson learned. And back to what we talked about earlier, if that lesson hadn't happened, maybe I would not have ended up where I am now and all the things that are going on.
Absolutely, that's absolutely right. Yep, we're in the same boat. We've both been through it, and if you haven't been through something like that, good for you, and that's great. Hopefully it doesn't happen, but if it does, don't dwell on it too long.
Well, do you almost feel sorry for somebody who hasn't had not that you want people to go through a challenging situation, but until you've gone through something that was very challenging, you don't really know what your salt is worth, right? You don't really know whether you can handle something like that. That's what they say. College is, make sure you can go through the hoops. College, wasn't that difficult, but it was like you had to prove to somebody. Now I'm like, even the college thing, that's another discussion. But to go through those hoops, to go through the requirements, these are these tasks, as mundane as you may feel they are, they have to get done. And hopefully then when you go through a big challenge, did you fold up your tent or did you continue on and finish it anyway?
Exactly. I mean, you have to keep going. You can't. Again, it goes back to not giving up. You can't give up. You have to just go with the punches, and you'll figure it out.
Well, these are the kinds of people you would like to have building your roof, everybody, especially a guy like Jason here. Trustman, there they are. Trustman Roofing. I'm gonna put Jason back up here on the there he is, and we'll do the wide shot here for everybody. But Trustman Roofing contractor, Greater St. Louis metro area. TrustmanRoofing.com. 314. There it is. 541-7005. And maybe he'll talk to you a little bit about quantum physics and life and some of the other hurdles that you may have to overcome at some point in life. But it just kind of helps us all understand you've got the big picture in mind here, and it's not just about, and it's what you said, I don't care so much about the money. You care mostly about doing what's right.
Yeah. I mean, obviously we had to have money to survive and to get by. The more the merrier. But it's not all about the money. You can't just focus on just the money. I mean, there has to be a purpose, and you have the purpose. And you figure out your purpose, everything will come into place.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Well, these are the kinds of guests we're looking for on our show. This is the Your Little Castle show. We're finishing up here, show number 2 again with Jason. It's just become it's enlightening. I knew I was going to have a good conversation with you. You and I haven't actually sat down to have this kind of in-depth conversation.
Right.
But I always just got that real positive vibe from you. You always were smiling, always happy, always friendly, always smiling at me. Give me a 5, whatever it was. That's the first high five I've ever done on the show, by the way. To never give up. But we're in discussion right now. I went to another Christmas party and ran into the guy who put on the previous one, which was huge at the Four Seasons, and. I won't say anything just yet, but one of the guys in the loop there, I kind of gave it away, but I got to talk to him at this other party. It was a counterpart of his who puts on a huge party, and at the end of the night, we're talking. I didn't know if he really knew me or not, but he came up to me and goes, Carter, I've made all the money I need to make. It's about making a difference. It's about impacting lives. It's about helping people. Yep. And there's so often that they don't understand that they're being taken advantage of, they're being lied to, they're being deceived. And we pull that out. Sometimes it's through the emails that the company was sending around. Sometimes it's through some documentation they didn't realize they left hanging out there. But bottom line is, I don't understand how you sleep at night. These guys, how did they think they were going to get away with? He told me the story. I said it's a well-known story, and I think he was one of the litigators that made it big time. And it was a $1 billion lawsuit that paid to help a lot of people because they were getting cancer from something I won't get into. But bottom line, it was just like they knew did this, but they did it anyway because they felt like, okay, we'll make all our money, and by the time the lawsuit comes around, we'll all be retired. I mean, I don't understand the strategy there, but ultimately they paid for that, and those are the kind of situations you don't want to be in. That's why you need a guy like Jason to make sure. Jason Talarski, Trustman Roofing, get a hold of him, and you will have a happy situation with your roof and everything you need to put in place for a happy life and a happy family in your house.
Absolutely.
In your little castle. Thanks, everybody. Stay tuned for more. This is the Your Little Castle Show. Giddy up.